say thank you to everyone for joining us today for our meeting, and it's time to begin. So it's time for me to call to order the oldest Lions Club in the world. I'm Rudy Munguia, the president this year. And so to begin, I'm going to ask our host, Leonor, to remind us about some Zoom procedures. Leonor, please.
Hi, everybody. So everybody should be muted by now. It's just so we keep the background noise from jumping in. But you are able to unmute yourself if you need to ask a question or need to say anything. But normally we just have the speaker or whoever's talking at the moment being the only person that the microphone is on. Other than that, you can ask questions on the chat as well. I'll be monitoring those. And that's pretty much about it. Thank you, Rudy.
Yeah, thank you, Leonor. So we'll proceed with our Pledge of Allegiance. And today, Norman Tyring is going to lead us in our pledge to the American flag and to the Texas flag. So Norman and everyone, if you will, please stand and Norman will lead us.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now to the pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Yeehaw!
Well done. Well done, Norman. Thank you so much. All right. Well, let's see how we're doing on our guests today. I'm going to ask that we have our guest speaker introduced later in the program. And Ann has a guest that I'm also going to ask if she will just wait a moment while, let's see, I believe John has some guests. John, would you let us know who your guests are?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. My guest today is my wife, Sally Fly, who is with me. And I have two other guests. Marion Small is my guest. She is Sally's sister. And her husband, Steve Schoen, is here as my guest as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome to our guests. Thank you for joining us today. Any other guests? I'm not seeing any hands waving. Okay, so we will proceed then with Ann Ward, our media past president. So Ann, would you introduce your guest, please?
Yes, Rudy, thank you. I want to introduce Robin Hutzler, who used to be a member of our club. Robin works for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and she is online with us. And I don't see our other Robin. I don't believe she's joined us. Anyway, may I ask Robin to give us the background, and then if our other Robin joins us, we'll introduce her and let her say a few words. So Robin, I'm going to let you say a few things.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ann. Hey, guys. Good to see you guys again. I reached out. I work for Blue Cross and Blue Shield, a medical dependent children's program, which is children on Medicaid who have special medical needs that require a skilled need, special attention. And so we had this young lady, her name is Kyra Sandoval, and they needed a bathroom remodel. Now her diagnosis is a brain tumor that caused her to go blind. So she's totally blind. And she was in remission, and now she has unfortunately had her tumor return. But mom needed a new bathroom. They needed it so bad to accommodate her her not having sight. And so this program I work for, we pay for minor home mods up to $7,500 a lifetime. And we got the bids, and we got under bid, and we were so excited, and he started construction, and I'll be darned if the plumbing wasn't bad. when they got in there, and you'll probably heard of that. So we rebid it, and we were $200 short to the 75. So it was $7,700. And I'm sorry, I don't know where to look on this camera. But anyway, so I reached out to Ann in the club to see if maybe the club would consider paying that extra $200. You know, these people that have kiddos with major medical is just so hard financially, plus COVID. And she did take it to the board, and it was denied by the board, but Ann just never stops. She passed the virtual hat around, and this child was given the $200 from an anonymous group of people. I don't know who it was. And I can't be more grateful, and thank you guys so much for that. So the bathroom has been completed as of, I believe, Friday. And I haven't seen pictures. I was hoping Mrs. Sandoval would be on today and show us some pictures. But again, thank you for your help in this. I can't be happier.
Well, thank you, Robin. And we were delighted that we were able to raise the money. And I don't believe Robin Sandoval has joined us yet, but I have been in contact with her, and she was very grateful. She also told me that her daughter, Kiara, is a former Texas Lions camper, and that she absolutely loved camp. And so, Rudy, perhaps if she joins us in a few minutes, we can let you know, and maybe we can let her say a word or two. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ann. I think we can make that work. So thank you so much. And let's see. All right, then I think we'll just kind of leave it there for the moment, and then we'll work our agenda depending on how we need to do that. Okay. For announcements, let me proceed with some announcements. Tomorrow, Friday, some of us are volunteering to help at Meals on Wheels, and we will be there from 8:30 to 11:30. I think an announcement was sent out, or an email was sent out. And thank you for those folks that responded. I'm not going to take time to read everyone's name, but thank you. And just now, let me reach over here. I don't know if you can see this. Just now at the door, these showed up. I don't know if you can tell, but these are our Lions yellow vests. And these are courtesy of Tommy Cowan. So we'll have these tomorrow to share so that we can have our logo either in the form of our yellow vest or in the form of a shirt or some apparel, if we can, that shows that we're representing the Lions Club. Let me put these back just a second.
Lion Rudy, I wanted
Yes.
to let you know, Robin Sandoval has joined us. So Robin, welcome to our club meeting. And if it's okay with you, Rudy, we'll let Robin say just a few words. And
Yes,
Robin,
yes.
For your information, Robin Huxler has explained the situation about the bathroom. So if you want to just tell us, you know, how things are going now that you've gotten it done, and maybe say a few words about your daughter in Texas Lions Camp.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. I apologize, I was a few minutes late. I'm so grateful for your contribution to the bathroom remodel. This was a really big deal for our family because Kiara lost her vision. She's been battling brain cancer for the past 5 years. And as a result, she's lost her vision, so she's completely blind. But more than that, she's had 6 brain surgeries. So much of her cerebellum has been removed. So she had some balance issues too. And one of the things that she has asked for now that she's 10, she's wanting some more independence. And the bathtub was just kind of treacherous for her and she wanted privacy. So that was something that we were able to do for her with your help and with Robin Huxler's help too. So she has a new shower that has handicap grab bars on it. She specifically asked for those that are similar to the ones at the School for the Blind when she goes to the Texas School for the Blind. So she asked for grab bars like that. So now she has a safe shower at home and she can be independent. And that is just a really, really important and big deal for us. So thank you so much for your contribution there. And yes, Kiara did attend the Lions Camp last summer. She was very sad that she wasn't able to go this year because of COVID, but she did attend last year. And what was so great about attending the Lions Camp was she went with two of her little blind friends. The three of them went together to one of the disability sessions. And it was so great because normally when she goes to camp, she's at the School for the Blind or she's kind of doing school things. So this was her first time to go to a camp that was truly a camp. So she was able to, they had campfires and she went swimming and horseback riding and all of those things. And that really meant a lot to her and then her little blind friends too. So to have a safe environment where we could let her go, it was kind of far away, but not too far. That was a really beautiful blessing for her and for our family. So thank you so much for all that you do. It really is appreciated by so many.
Well, thank you for being here, and we're just so happy we can help. Thank you.
If you would like, I have a picture. Can I share my screen to show you this picture really briefly?
Sure.
I will show you so you can see. This is Kiara and her brother Nathan. This was their first day of school picture. Kiara went into 5th grade and Nathan is in 8th grade. And let's see if I can get the next picture. This is her new bathroom.
Wow.
So this is the shower. They removed the tub. And so we have a nice glass door that's sliding. And I love that it's sturdy so she doesn't lose her balance. And it has the handicap bars in there, you can see. Mm-hmm. And Kiara has slight vision in her left eye and she can see a little bit of shadows. So having this darker tile back here on the right is a contrast. So now she's excited she can reach her shampoo and she knows where it is. She can kind of see it a little bit, but she knows that that's her alcove for her shampoo and conditioner. So that's a big deal too. And this is her at the Lions Camp. So she was making a wish, a dream catcher. This is her swimming with a counselor. And this is her at a campfire. And that was her first campfire to ever go to, and she was really excited about it. So thank you so much for letting me share and for being a part of our bathroom remodel.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you, Robin and Ann. And so to all our Lions, I think we can all feel that warmth of being able to reach out and help. And thank you for sharing that experience with us. I do want to add a note in fairness to the members of our board. When this information came to me, and I had a chance to check with a few others, I made the decision not to take it to the board. Because we don't really have a budget in the board for these type of financial needs. So what happened is that we contacted a few Lions Club members who said yes to, I can pitch in a little bit, I can pitch in a little bit, and so on and so on. And so the money was gathered in that way. So I just want to be fair to the board members. They're not, they don't wear horns, and they're not against helping out. It's just that it was not really presented to the board, and it happened the way I've explained. So I just wanted to share all of this because it is a good feeling to be a Lion and to be able to be asked to help and then to be able to respond. All right, so thank you, Ann, Robin, and Robin. All right, so if we may, we're going to I just want to, there's one more announcement. I hope you received in your email this morning. It was a little bit late, but I sent out a little news update. And so there are several announcements in there that I won't repeat now. And but I just want to call attention to those. All right. Well, moving on to our announcements. This is one of those weeks that we have no birthdays. I don't know how it happened that nobody was born this week many years ago. That's in our club, but so it happens. And so we will just say that we try to celebrate birthdays, but it's just not going to happen this week. So we're ready for our next item on the agenda, and this is a fun part. This is our member profile, where we get a chance to listen and hear a little bit in more detail about one of our members. And today we have the pleasure of listening to or hearing from Steve Riley, one of our new members. So Steve, welcome again. And if you will, tell us a little bit of yourself.
Rudy, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay? Everybody good? Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity, and I'm grateful to be a Lion. So my name is Stephen Riley. I spell it with a PH. My parents named me after Saint Stephen. We're Catholic, and he was a pretty important figure right after Jesus, where he was one of the most instrumental people in spreading Christianity. So that's what I got to live up to every day, in case anybody's wondering. So not too much pressure, as we say. But I am grateful for my parents for giving me life. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City. I was born in 1967, and I grew up in Brooklyn till I was about 29 years old. I went to Midwood High School, which is a local high school in that part of the country. And I was class president my senior year and captain of the swimming team. And I then went on to SUNY Binghamton, which is a university in upstate New York, and majored in history and in Spanish. So I've been able to keep most of my Spanish. And at the time, I didn't think my history degree would serve me terribly well, but it's actually a great background because it gives me a lot of skills in regards to relating with people and critical thinking and storytelling. And I parlayed those skills into being a salesperson, which is the majority of the work I've done since I've been out of college. And my first sales job was selling cockroach spray in Queens, New York, which most people would say that's a pretty easy gig. There's certainly no shortage of opportunity there. And it was really interesting because I got to call on bodegas, on grocery stores, supermarkets, and Queens was and still is a huge polyglot. So my joke was I got to get turned down by people of all races and creeds and colors. So I got to lose sales to the whole rainbow, as it were. But it was a wonderful jumping off point because I segued into promotional advertising. So that's kind of imprinted cups, mugs, headphones, the kind of stuff you give out at shows, calendars. And I was actually relocated to the Boston area in 1996. It was the year my mom died. She was really sick, and it was an opportunity to take a fresh start in a different part of the country. And one of my first and best customers was the Lion, John Hoyle, who was a PID. And pretty much within the first year of meeting him, he was telling me about the virtues of being a Lion. So I feel like the Lions have been sort of stalking me for all these years. And I really enjoy all my time with him. And we moved to Los Angeles in 2005. And we were there for 3 years. And then we moved to Texas because you can't move to Texas unless you come through California. That's the only legal way you can move to the state of Texas. And so, and I tell everybody, you know, I'm from New York City and then I lived in California. So that basically chases all my neighbors off the block whenever we have a cookout or a block party. We were moved at the kindness that we encountered in Austin within the first few weeks we lived here. We moved actually, today is 12 years ago today that we actually settled in. So we moved basically during the financial crisis of '08. And at the time, we didn't have jobs and we didn't have our son. And in the next few years, I started my business and I became a dad in 2011. And I'm grateful for all of that. But over the years, I had always moved around a lot and I wanted to be part of a community on a deeper level. So I made a New Year's resolution in 2020 that I was going to seek out the Lions and join them. And you folks within the first meeting I had really fulfilled my greatest expectations and best thoughts about this organization. So I'm really grateful to be part of this group. And I look forward to seeing everybody in person again and certainly serving in multiple capacities. So Rudy, thank you for the opportunity to speak to everybody, and thank all of you for your kindness. I'm grateful. So.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's our pleasure to have you as our member, and so welcome again.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we are still promoting the sale of roses, and so to help us with that, JP Kirksey will help us and tell us a little bit more about the roses and maybe do even an auction. So JP.
Well, thank you, Rudy, and good afternoon. But first, I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege just to reflect on the fact that it's been 1 year tomorrow since our senior member, Moten Crockett, died. And when you think about time flying, I think that's a pretty good example of it. But I did receive a card from Elaine today, in fact, read, and she asked me to pass on to everyone the love and the admiration and the genuine joy that Moten experienced being a member of this club for more than 50 years, and all the support that he received from from us in the past few years. So I just wanted to pass that on to you. Quite a compliment. So we are 1 month and 2 weeks. That's a total of 6 weeks away from our rose sale. And we have a very special dozen roses today. And they are only special because Robert Watson has them in his hand and he will deliver them to the lucky buyer who has the deepest pockets available. So Leonora, I will need your assistance again. We have a very large group today, 33, and I cannot see everybody on the screen. So I would ask you to help me with picking out those who raise their hand or scratch their nose or pick their ear or whatever they do to bid for this. So $5 is the starting bid. Who'll give me 5? I need 5. Somebody hold up a hand. There's Steve. 5, give me 10. Anybody give me 10? Somebody give me 10. I need 10. Jim Robertson, 10. 15. Anybody 15? Come on, they're worth about $50. Mark Hastings, 15. Anybody? Anybody well. 20? John. Anybody 20?
John.
John Niefler?
Yep.
Okay, John Niefler, 20. Steve Riley, you 25? 25. I need 30. Anybody give me 30? Somebody give me 30. I need 30. If there's 30 of Rudy. 35. Give me 35. Anybody 35? I got 30 from Rudy. Anybody 35?
John Niefler again.
John Niefler, 35. Sid, 40.
It wasn't Sid. It was Chuck.
Oh, Chuck. Okay, well, one of them. Terry, are you still on? With the appropriate postage, we will ship these roses to you. I've got 40 from Chuck. 40, anybody give me 45? Anybody 45? I got 40. There's 45, Jim Robertson.
Yeah, okay.
50, she said. She likes those roses. Terry will bid 50. 55, anybody 55? Anybody 55? Anywhere 55? Looking for 55. Terry said she'd give 50 and maybe come get them. No?
That'll be fun.
Okay. I got 50 from Terry. Anybody give me 55? Going once?
John, yep.
John, well, Chuck's back in his arm, waving his hand, 55. John, 60. John? Is he silent? Leonore?
John is quiet.
John is quiet. I got Chuck at 55. Chuck at 55. Anybody 60? Going to sell them. Going once?
Terry's got her hand up.
Terry said 60. 60. Okay, Chuck, you 65? John, you 65? I got 60 from Terry. I got 60. Looking for 65. Nobody? Terry Heller, you bought some roses.
Yay! And
congratulations.
I want them to go to our guest today. I'm sorry, Robin I want them to go to Robin's little girl. I don't know why I can't remember her name.
Kiara.
Tiara.
Kiara with a K. We'll make that happen, Terry, and thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Terry.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, JP, and to all those that were in the bidding process. So it's fun, and it adds a little bit more to our fundraising for of roses. And just a reminder that delivery date is October the 29th. Okay, well, thank you, Terry, for being the high bidder on that. We need to proceed on to the next part, and it's time for the introduction of our program and our speaker. And Mac, we're gonna let you do that. Would you help us, please?
I would be delighted. And thank you, Rudy. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker today as Dr. Art Markman. He's a UT psychology professor. He's a blogger, a writer, and a radio show host. Many of you may know him from the podcast and NPR radio show, Two Guys on Your Head, where he expounds on a wide range of subjects, both esoteric and mundane, with observations and insights that never fail to delight and amaze. He's an author of several books, including Smart Thinking, Smart Change, Brain Briefs, and Bring Your Brain to Work. I happen to have the book Smart Thinking. Oh, yeah, there it is. And which I'm now rereading in the vain hope that it'll help my cognitive abilities. I'll let you know how that's going. So our topic is values and work during the pandemic. Dr. Markman is known for his pioneering work in the area of cognitive science. And he's going to talk about a few aspects of psychology that you can use to be more productive and feel better about your work. So Dr. Markman, take it away.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mac, and everybody. It's great to be here today. I really appreciate it. And you know, what you're experiencing right now is work life today. You know, a lot of people are spending their time staring at a sea of faces on screens for large chunks of the day while working in the same place that they're living. And the question is, how do you turn that into feeling meaningful in all of this? Because I think one of the key issues is that I think early on in the pandemic, there was a tendency for people to think to themselves that maybe they wanted to, maybe they wanted to just put things on hold until the pandemic got better. And I think as this has gone on and we've begun to realize that we're probably in this mode for the foreseeable future, or as I like to say, the one thing we've learned during the pandemic is that no prediction ages well. And so every time we say we're just around the corner from something, it turns out maybe that corner is further away than it looked. And so we really can't afford to put things on hold. Life is continuing to go on, and we have to make something of it. And so I want to talk just about a couple of things that we can do to try and make this time feel a little bit more meaningful. And I think the first thing I want to say is that it's really important to try to find some kind of storyline that you can begin to tell about the way that your life and your work is going, because so many of us are working from home, which means we're waking up, we're living in the same place that we're working. There isn't a lot of variation in the scenery. It can begin to feel a little bit like that movie Groundhog Day, where you're living one day after another. And I know that the great El Arroyo sign downtown, earlier in the year said, "Welcome to the 71st day of March." And I think now we're in the 180th day of March. And if we don't feel like we're telling a story that moves our life narrative forward a little bit, then it really does feel like we're experiencing the same day over and over and over again. And so I think it's really important that we that we ask ourselves, what are some of the things that we can do in our lives right now to feel like we are pushing some kind of a story forward? And it might be tracking a particular project that you're working on at work. That's certainly a piece of it. But even those of you who aren't working, trying to find something to learn, taking an online class and picking up a new skill, and really trying to recognize that you've made some achievements day to day, week to week, is extraordinarily important, because it gives you something to look forward to. It gives you that opportunity to feel like the next day is going to add up to something. But it also allows you to look back over a period of time and see a progression, which is something you don't have to do as explicitly day to day in normal life, because you're bumping into lots of people. That life narrative is more deeply interwoven with what's happening with everybody else around you. But right now, it's extraordinarily important that you find a way to push that story forward. And when you want to push that story forward in a way that is going to make you not just feel like time isn't standing still, but also to make you feel as though it is a fulfilling period, it means that you want to spend some time thinking about the relationship between the work that you're doing and the values that you have. And so I generally speaking, hate slides, but I am going to show one slide here. So hopefully you can see this wheel of values here. This comes from some work by a psychologist named Shalom Schwartz. And what he did was actually to go all around the world and ask people about the things that they value. And one of the fascinating things is that there is a pretty consistent set of values that you can find in people around the world. And the particular values that any given individual holds are a product partly of their upbringing, so partly of the kinds of things that both their culture and their family value, and partly they are a result of people's individual experiences. We develop those values, and they can change a little bit over the lifespan. But I want to highlight a few of them first, just so that you can get a sense of what these are. So if we start at kind of the noon hour on this chart, we have this notion of universalism, which is a value that recognizes that all of us are members of the human race, that there's some commonality across humanity. And so that's something that we might value. And I will say that as you look at this wheel, the reason it's set up as a wheel is that there's a tendency for some of the values on one side of the wheel to be somewhat in opposition to the values on the other side of the wheel. So that if you hold a value on one side, you tend not to hold a value on the other side. Next to universalism, we see benevolence, which is not just this idea that we belong to a common humanity, but that we really value doing good for others. I think we saw a great example of benevolence earlier today with the donation that the Lions made to help with the installation of the bathroom. That's a selfless act to really help other people. Next to that, we see two values that are related: conformity and tradition. Conformity meaning a real value that people should do what everyone does. Tradition meaning not only should we do what the people around us are doing, but that we should really hew to the traditions of our culture and not make significant changes to that. Related to that, as we move around the wheel, we see security, valuing this notion of feeling like your life is protected and your life is secure. As we move on around the wheel, after that we see power. Power is a value that some people hold. Power is that value that they want to have control and the ability to influence other people. And interestingly, you see that power and universalism are somewhat opposed. If you tend to see yourself as continuous with the rest of humanity, you tend not to be somebody who values having power. Next to power, we see achievement, this idea of am I the sort of person who wants to be recognized for being successful? Do I put myself and my advancement above others? After that, we get hedonism, this value of pleasure. To what degree do I value pleasurable, enjoyable experiences? And again, you look at the opposing values, that valuing pleasure tends to come at the expense of valuing doing good for others. After all, if you think about the money that was donated to help renovate the bathroom, that's money that someone could have used to create an enjoyable experience for themselves, but instead chose to give to help someone else. And so you can begin to see how those values are not compatible. Next to that, you see stimulation. There are some people who strongly value doing things that will make them feel energized, make them feel alive. And you can see how that sits on the opposite side of security. Again, those people who are prone to go bungee jumping, for example, probably are not the same people who value real security. And finally, self-direction, which is this notion that I want to be the author of my destiny, which, as we can see, sits a little bit across from tradition, because self-direction is one where I'm trying to be the architect of my future versus really, in many traditional cultures, a lot of what you do and who you are is driven by expectations for you by the people around you. Now, these values are extraordinarily important for our lives psychologically. And I'll leave this diagram up just for another minute, and then I'll take it off so that you don't have to stare at it. But these values are extraordinarily important because they really determine what it is that we as individuals think is important for us to achieve. What is it that we are trying to accomplish? And we tend to seek out people who share those kinds of values. So for example, over the years, you've probably had many people come through and visit the Lions Club. Some of them feel like real people who are going to be who are going to make great lions, and others who don't seem to be a good match. And that's often a reflection of a values match or a values mismatch. And so we tend to seek out other people and look for people who share the values that we have. We tend to seek out experiences that will allow us to live the values that we have. And this is particularly important as we begin to think about our work lives in the context of the pandemic. Many people find themselves in jobs and in situations that don't really fit their life values. They realize that a career is often a collection of jobs that one follows the next. And sometimes you realize, the path that you started out in is not the one where you really want to be. I wrote a book called Bring Your Brain to Work that came out last year. And in the process of doing that, I interviewed a large number of people. And I found a number of examples of people who were unhappy in their careers, and they were unhappy because that career didn't really match their values in a variety of ways. So, a guy named Brian that I interviewed, for example, left college and felt like achievement was going to be really important to him. So he took a job that was going to allow him to be recognized as being a success, only to discover that he really was much more interested in benevolence. And he actually left his job and went to work in the Peace Corps for several years. And when he came back, took a job that really allowed him to engage with other people and help them. And that was a way of realigning his career path with his underlying values. And I think that one of the common stories that I highlighted in the book is that a number of people who were unhappy with their careers really required a crisis before they were willing to make a change. And for many people, that crisis was some kind of individual crisis, an illness or the death of a close family member, which then led them to reevaluate where they were in their lives. And one of the things that I recommend is taking stock periodically and asking yourself, am I happy with the things I do? Am I happy with the people that I spend my time with? And is there a change I want to make? And frankly, this pandemic has created exactly the sort of crisis that gives people an opportunity to rethink where they are in their lives, and even creates an opportunity for us to learn new skills and to engage with new ideas in order to rethink some of the things that we do. So this is an opportunity to do a little bit of a reckoning, to look at a wheel of values like that and ask yourself, am I living a life that allows me to reflect the values that I hold important? Because in the end, every day when you wake up, being excited about facing that day, in part means being excited about being able to fulfill a set of activities that allows you to express that set of values, and seeking those opportunities is extremely important. I'll say one more thing, and then I'll give an opportunity for people to ask some questions. But just as an example of this, I'm lucky enough to be working at the University of Texas. You can see my Protect Texas Together background here. We're really trying to make sure that everybody does the right thing. And somebody pointed out to me that given how close I stand to my camera, my head, according to Bevo here, must be just about 6 feet wide. But I do like having Bevo there because it does allow me to kind of, have my own Bevo horns every once in a while. But one of the great joys of being a professor at the University of Texas is that it has allowed me to change the work that I do several times over the 22 plus years that I've worked at UT without having to change jobs. And so, it really does allow me a way of reevaluating how my relationship to my own values can be fulfilled with the work that I'm doing. And that's been fascinating for me. In fact, over the last 6 months, I've spent a considerable amount of time helping the university plan its fall reopening. So I was I was heading up the academics working group for that process. And it really did enable me to work closely with a lot of other people in service of the education mission at the university. And one of the things that many people don't know about our planning process is that one of the reasons why we felt it was quite important for students to come back to the University of Texas was because we serve the entire state of Texas. And if you look at the entire state, not every one of our students has good broadband access, has a private place where they can study, has an environment that is conducive to being a great student. We have students from rural areas where there's really poor broadband, from small communities or inner city areas where they don't really have their own place to study. And so by having the opportunity for students to come back to the university, we were able to put all of our students in an environment in which they could work hard to finish their studies. And I think that valuing allowing myself to be in a situation to focus on how the university could serve our community was really I think a wonderful thing for me, allowing me to kind of live this cycle. So with that, I want to kind of take a step back, give you all a chance to ask some questions. Although looking at the chat, I do want to point out that I grew up in New Jersey. And sadly, despite the proliferation of Yankees fans in the chat, I grew up a Mets fan, and was actually deeply saddened to see the death of Tom Seaver just a few weeks ago. He was one of my childhood idols. And with that, if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask Leonore to kind of help us monitor again, please. So Leonore, if you'll see whose hands are raised.
We have Mac first, and then we have Gaylord after Mac.
Dr. Markman, more of a comment than a question. I really appreciate putting a real positive look at this pandemic, that rather than feeling down and out, that it's an opportunity to re-examine, forcing us to kind of re-examine our lives. That's really good. And I should have mentioned in the introduction that I actually ran across you at an OLLI, Osher Lifetime Learning Institute. And that's when I asked you to come speak to us. So I wanted to mention to the club that Ollie sign up is actually going on right now. It's not too late, but it starts, I think, next week. And it has been a godsend to those of us who do it. And there's several in the club that are doing it, me and Ann Ward and Norman Tyring. I would recommend it to anybody. It's not only a great diversion, but it also is something that gets the juices going and gets you to thinking and learning. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thanks, Mac. Yeah, the OLLI programs are terrific. NOVA and LAMP and all of those. Over the years, I've had a chance to speak at pretty much all the different programs that they run. And if anybody who hasn't engaged with those before, they are just a tremendous resource, and it's easy to get to. They hold them at the Thompson Conference Center, so when they're held in person, and easy in, easy out. So hopefully you can do them both when they're virtual, and then come down to the 40 acres after the pandemic subsides.
Gaylord, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. And Dr. Markman, you really hit a warm spot when you mentioned the Mets and Tom Seaver. Baseball put me through college, and I call myself a pitcher, but others for some reason wanted to call me a thrower. But the best book ever written on pitching was Tom Seaver's book. And it was chapter by chapter, step by step. And I bought it and gave it to a lot of young men that were interested in being pitchers. But I know you were probably addicted once you saw the Mets go from last place to win the World Series in 1969. So you were hooked. Bottom line, I've a couple of questions I guess I'd like for you to comment on, and I hope they're related. For a lot of people's profession, the pandemic and the isolation takes away an awful lot of the joy and pleasure of maybe what we did at one time and part of the personal reference. But I look forward every morning to what I did and who I did it with 140 people that at a law firm that I look forward to seeing, working with, being with other lawyers, state officials and agencies or the legislature. And these days, the Capitol's locked. You can't even get in the Capitol. And here we are at home, and the fellowship and the sharing of personal experiences and of knowledge that's gained, obviously in a setting where we're not isolated because of the pandemic, leads to a value, it seems to me, that you touched on in several ways, but that I found valuable personally and to others, and that is compassion. That is, compassion as a value so that you reach out to people that are also isolated. I have a number of friends that are bedridden with Parkinson's or maybe Alzheimer's, and yet they're still able to communicate and to call them, to text or email them. But then I've had 4 or 5 calls from people I've not seen in decades, maybe a former neighbor, a former tennis partner, that would call out of the blue, just checking on you, tell me, bring me up to date. I hope you're not too frustrated, but that compassion, it seems to me, that causes us to reach out into these people that are isolated, and some becoming depressed as a result of the isolation because they're removed from their daily routines and the people with whom they work. But does all of that make sense as a value? That is the compassion, and particularly the value of reaching out and the value one receives when people reach out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that kind of benevolence, that willingness to think about other people, I think it's incredibly important during the pandemic for all the reasons that you described. I think we have a lot of people who are feeling isolated. I also think we have a lot of people who are feeling utterly overwhelmed. There are a lot of older folks who can't and shouldn't get out too much because they're at risk. But we also have a lot of younger people, parents, of young children, for example, who are working and trying to school their kids and trying to take care of everything. And that's also, I think, been overwhelming. And there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of frustration. I had a Twitter thread by a colleague of mine at NYU who had to teach his introductory psychology class yesterday from an elevator that got stuck between floors with him and his two kids stuck inside. And somehow he had 1 bar of service on his phone and managed to teach his lecture. That's kind of a heroic story, but you know, day to day, I think there's so many stories like that of people who are trying to just, you know, make some progress on the work that they're doing while having to take on a huge share of the load of raising a family. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed, and I think it's important for all of us to be to reach out, and also I think to be compassionate to others in another way, which is, you know, there's a lot of anxiety right now. There's a lot of frustration. Not everybody is at their best at all times. And I think we have to really be willing to turn the other cheek a lot. People are going to say things that they don't mean. And, you know, it's probably always a good idea not to take offense at things that people say, but it's particularly important right now to give people the benefit of the doubt, to ask what must be going on in their lives right now that they would say, that they might say a particular thing to us on a particular day, rather than really, you know, escalating that. And that's hard to do because a lot of us are also a little bit at the end of our rope. We're tired and we're anxious and we're stressed and the future's uncertain. And so, you know, one of the most important things you can do at a time like this when you're interacting with other people is just to slow down a little bit. Don't go with that first reaction. Don't react in the way that somebody just reacted to you. Ask yourself what might be going on in somebody's life. And the other reason to slow down is because when you slow down and it enables you to actually have a conversation with somebody else. You know, one of the problems with Zoom is that it tends to make a lot of our interactions really transactional. You know, you have a meeting and everybody says, well, we're on Zoom, we got to get down to business. And I love the fact that I logged onto this a few minutes early and people were just having a conversation with each other. You know, there's tremendous value in small talk and just finding out what's going on in your life right now. How are you doing? You know, wishing somebody a happy birthday when it happens. My first meeting this morning was at 8 a.m. and, you know, and it was somebody's birthday on the meeting. And I'm glad that we took a minute to wish them a happy birthday and find out what their plans were for celebrating. Because it's the sort of thing that we would have done much more naturally if we'd all been in the same room at the same time, but it would have been easy to gloss over that. And I think that in all of those ways, even if compassion turns out not to be one of your values or maybe just not something you're particularly good at, now is the time to really develop that. It is a skill. Empathy is a skill that can be learned, you know, and part of the way you do that is by really slowing down and listening. So Gaylord, thanks for that comment, because I think that was spot on.
Thank you very much for expounding on it.
Do we have anyone else?
I don't see any other hands up. So if you have a question yourself, Rudy. Oh, Steve, go ahead. Steve and Norman, sorry. Steve and Norman.
Okay, and I'll be quick. Doctor, thank you for the presentation. And, you know, Jersey, Brooklyn, we're practically neighbors. These days, actually, I think we're all neighbors. And I guess I was curious what your take is on the sort of cognitive dissonance between social media now versus when we were all more out and about. In other words, we're able to virtually be interlocked and interlinked with so many more people now, but because we're physically not in front of as many people or hardly anybody. What do you think is kind of on a broader level, if there is any observation to make, what do you think has occurred as a result of that?
You know, I mean, we could go on all day about this, but I will say one thing that I think is really important, which is social media in particular doesn't really promote much in the way of conversation, you know? So, you know, it would be easy for Yankees and Mets fans to just yell at each other on social media, right? You know, we would just, you know, and I think you can pick any team divide and see people yelling across the chasm. But what's nice about an engagement, even a quasi personal engagement like this, is that it gives us an opportunity to have that second tier of conversation and recognize, for example, that you could be a Yankees fan and still recognize that Tom Seaver was pretty cool, you know, and find those points of common ground. Those points of common ground happen from conversation. They don't happen from comment threads. And I think that you know, social media is good for certain things. You know, I write for a lot of venues. I write for Harvard Business Review and Fast Company and Psychology Today. And social media is awfully good for self-promotion that way, you know, letting people know some of the stuff that I've written. But it's really bad for engagement with other people. You know, that really requires a phone call or a meeting or lunch or something like that. And among all the things that I find frustrating about social media are that it doesn't really promote the kind of interaction that helps us to find some amount of common humanity, even with people that we don't necessarily completely see eye to eye with.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can go wide, but we can't go deep. You
Yeah,
know, that's the
exactly.
issue.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So, yeah, but I'm grateful for the wisdom and the insight you gave. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Norman, go ahead.
Okay, I was just thinking, I'm also a former resident of Westchester County in White Plains, New York. So I'm very well of the differences between someone living in the Bronx and someone living in Brooklyn, and the twain doesn't seem to meet very often. But in talking about your comments and particularly about everyone, I think in these times is spending an awful lot of time with the media, with the television set on practically all times during the day. And in reality, I found that I've moved away from the television considerably. As Mac mentioned, the OLE as a training area and learning medium is absolutely phenomenal. We had an opportunity to go on a scavenger hunt in which the OLE sponsored going around in one day, 2-hour period, and trying to find 25 different works of art located throughout Austin. You went there and you wrote them down. The time you were there, you took a picture and you turned that in so that the other people at OLE had an opportunity to remark upon, you know, what they'd seen, and not being together socially, but yet some type of interaction with the programs. So in reality, I found that expanding our activities has, at least for me, felt much more, I brought more relief and comfort and enjoyment into my life. And knowing that today I'll be maybe listening to music dancing with my wife. Later this afternoon, I'll be out going to a park to see the fish and see how it's changed. So I'm a strong believer in moving out, doing other things that you can do in a safe and responsible way. So again, more of a comment, not a question behind that, but I'd like your feedback.
I think that's terrific. I think we have to find ways, you know, clever ways to engage. I think that you know, book clubs, you know, getting a bunch of people to read the same book and to talk about it is also a wonderful thing. You know, exercise is a good thing to do. You know, one of the things about the pandemic is you know, outdoor air is pretty good to be in. You know, so taking a walk with somebody or going on a bike ride, or, you know, I've had a chance to ride bikes with a couple of friends of mine over the course of the pandemic, and that's, you know, that kind of thing. It's just that those shared experiences, I think, become really meaningful, and so I think there are lots of ways to do this. I think we don't, you know, we can be safe and socially physically distant, I guess, without being socially distant.
Sure.
Dr. Markham, thank you so much. I'm afraid we're going to have to call time, but I appreciate your comments and your time, and I think we all benefited from your talk today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation.
let's hear about next week's program before we get too much further. And Gaylord, if you will tell us about next week's program, please.
Yes, sir. JP mentioned it's been a year. It's hard to believe it's been a year since we lost Moulton. Well, would you believe as of next meeting, Thursday, October 1st, it's 34 days until Election Day. It's only every 4 years we elect a president and certain statewide officials and some senators, etc. And the committee, Speaker's Committee, felt it'd be appropriate to have an overview. And someone that I'd approached previously for similar type of programs, and I think he's the most authoritative, knowledgeable, and experienced person I know in the business, Bill Miller, who is a political consultant for both Democrat candidates and Republican candidates, and that's how much he's respected, as well as a prominent lobbyist and strategist, will be our speaker to discuss the presidential election, whether maybe a defeated incumbent would be willing to leave office or not, a few congressional races in not great detail, and then what's going on in Texas in our elections. I think it'll be very informative, and glad we've been able to get Bill, who's a very busy and significant player, to join us. And that would be Bill Miller next Thursday.
All right. Thank you so much, Gaylord. We look forward to that. Before we adjourn, want to see if we have any other guests that have joined us. Mark?
Yes, we have Kathy Hastings. You go ahead.
Yeah, Mark, you want to introduce your guest?
I can't introduce my guest. I know her pretty well. She's my wife, Kathy Thomas. She we're of course here at home, and some of you know her, but she also hosts the weekly concert every Thursday a little before noon. And when it was we could physically be there, she could never come to a Lions Club meeting. Well, now she's here today because she's now hosting it, but again, using Zoom. So that's why she's here today, and I think she enjoyed the program.
I did very much, and I'd like to invite y'all to join us for our concert. It's over generally by 12:30, so you can sign on to Lions.
All right. Kathy, welcome. It's good seeing you and glad to have you as part of our meeting today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it very much.
Steve, I don't know if you're still there, but I thought I saw you having a very special guest there with you.
That's my son, Aiden, and Aiden is hopefully finishing his last week of virtual empowered learning in the 3rd grade. And so I don't know if Art's still with us, but the one thing is I am reskilling. I'm learning now how to be a teacher and a dad on a whole new level. It's actually been an amazing gift because his mom has had to work all this time, and for the last 6 months, he and I have been spending a great amount of time together. So that's let me see if I can show him again. So he's 8 years old and he's 5'2", 105 pounds. He's the same height and weight I was when I was in the 9th grade. So yeah. And taller, yeah. They grow them big here in Texas, big and healthy and kind. So
well, welcome to your guest as well. And I want to shout out to Ann. Ann, we thought about you last week and the rain and all. Glad that you are doing fine. And just final word about next week. We're going to have from
Rudy,
the
sorry,
great state
Ann.
of Maine. Yeah, we're going to have we're going to have Terry help us with our centennial song that she wrote for our club, and we'll see how that goes. So with that, I thank everyone for joining us.
Wait, Rudy.
Oh, okay.
Ann Ward had something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to give a shout out to say hello to Tom Orlando. We haven't seen him in a while, and it's great to see your face there on Zoom. So welcome.
Good seeing you, Tom. Well, with that, thank you to everyone. Thank you to our guests, and thank you to our speaker. And we are adjourned. So y'all